Have you ever seriously wondered what's going on inside your own head? I mean, really going on. What if I told you that a simple word game, something you can play right now, could be the key to unlocking the deepest, most hidden parts of your unconscious mind? Now, this isn't just some party trick. It's a real window into the architecture of your thoughts, and it was pioneered over a century ago. Let's dive in and see how it works.
Okay, don't overthink it. What was it? Family? Safe? Maybe even stress? Whatever just popped into your head, just hold on to that word.
Because as one of the pioneers of modern psychology discovered, that spontaneous answer isn't random at all. Nope, it's actually a breadcrumb, part of a trail, leading back to a hidden, incredibly complex map of, well, you.
To really understand why, we've got to go back in time. Back to a period when the human mind was the ultimate mystery, and a young, ambitious psychiatrist was about to turn a simple game into a powerful scientific tool.
So picture this. It's the dawn of the 20th century, and a young Carl Jung is working in a Swiss clinic. He and his colleagues are trying to tackle the most complex thing in the known universe, the human psyche. But they were facing this fundamental, almost impossible challenge. Their central mission was to create a baseline, some kind of map of what a normal mind even looked like. I mean, without that, how could you ever hope to understand what was different about a mind that was struggling? And this really highlights the huge gap in their knowledge. See, they could observe and describe the minds of patients with psychosis, what they called the abnormal mind. But the everyday, so-called normal mind, that was a complete black box. They had no map, no rules, no way to even begin measuring how it worked. Jung himself put it best. They needed data. They needed a way to, quantitatively measure the thought associations of everyday people to finally create that missing map. This wasn't just idle curiosity. It was a foundational scientific necessity. So how do you map something as invisible and complex as a thought process? Well, Jung and his colleague Franz Riklin came up with an experiment that was just beautiful in its simplicity. And it worked like this. It looks deceptively simple, right? Step 1, the researcher says a word, like, say, water. Step 2, the subject says the very first word that pops into their head. Could be drink, blue, ocean, whatever. And step 3, they time the response with a stopwatch. That's it. But from these 3 little steps, a whole universe of data was about to emerge. And believe me, this was no casual weekend project. They were incredibly rigorous. Jung and his team collected over 12,000, that's 12,400, individual associations from all kinds of people, men, women, educated, uneducated. For its time, this was a massive data gathering operation. But they didn't stop there. They didn't just test people in a quiet room. They wanted to understand the crucial role of attention, so they tested subjects under 3 different conditions. 1, just normally. 2, with an internal distraction, like trying to hold a specific image in your mind, and 3, with an external distraction, like the constant ticking of a metronome. Okay, so now they have this literal mountain of data, thousands upon thousands of word pairs and reaction times. But what does it all mean? How do you turn all that raw information into a coherent map of the mind? That was the next great challenge. They needed a system, right? A way to sort and classify these fleeting mental connections so they could finally see the patterns hiding underneath. And their big breakthrough was discovering that pretty much all associations could be sorted into 2 basic types. On one hand, you have internal associations, which are connections based on the actual meaning of the words. And on the other, you have external associations, which are more superficial, based on habit or sound or just things you find together. So let's look at some examples of those internal, meaning-based connections. You've got things like coordination, like father leading to uncle. They share the concept of male relative. Or predicates, which are just descriptions like snake leading to poisonous. And of course, contrasts, like good leading to sinful. You see, these all require a deeper processing of the word's meaning. Now for the external side, the more mechanical stuff. You've got coexistence. Table and chair are just often found together. There's linguistic habit. We've heard dark and light paired so many times it's almost a reflex. And then you have pure sound reactions or rhymes, like the German Traum for dream and Schaum for froth. These don't really require much deep thought at all. So armed with this new map of internal versus external associations, Jung was on the verge of his most incredible discovery.
And it all started when he noticed these really strange patterns emerging, especially when people were distracted. Remember those distraction experiments with the metronome? They were designed to see what happens when our conscious focus gets pulled away. And what happened was absolutely fascinating.
Jung called this blunting. When a person's attention dropped, their responses shifted away from those thoughtful internal associations and moved towards the superficial external ones. Thinking literally became more mechanical, more sound-based. It was like a dimmer switch was being turned down on higher-level thought.
And here's the giant leap. Jung realized that sometimes a person's attention wasn't being distracted by a metronome, but by something inside them. He called this a feeling-toned complex, an unconscious, emotionally charged knot of ideas and memories that could hijack a person's attention without them even knowing it.
This shows it perfectly. These are real responses from a guy called Subject 19. When he hears wedding, he says misfortune. He hears to kiss, he says never. When he hears heart, he just refuses to answer. It turns out he was in the middle of this painful, secret conflict over his love for a woman named Alice Stern. The stimulus words related to love triggered his hidden complex, and it caused these bizarre, emotionally charged responses. The test had found the invisible wound.
And from cases just like this, Jung started to identify the telltale signs that a complex was at work. Things like long pauses, strange answers, suddenly not being able to respond at all, repeating an odd word, or abruptly shifting to a superficial rhyme. These are all clues that a stimulus word had just hit an emotional nerve, a hidden complex that was disrupting normal thought.
So what began as this scientific attempt to map the normal mind ended up creating a revolutionary tool for exploring our deepest, most personal, unconscious worlds.
So let's just quickly recap what we've learned. Our simplest words are actually powerful clues to our inner workings. We know that when our attention falters, whether it's from a ticking clock or an internal emotional complex, our thinking becomes more mechanical and superficial. And, maybe most importantly, this early work paved the way for modern psychoanalysis, forensic psychology, and even the personality tests many of us have taken.
And all of this brings us right back to that first word you thought of at the beginning, that single, simple response. It's part of a vast, hidden network inside you. So the final question really is this: what secrets are your own words waiting to tell?